but they also felt shame. They said that's because it's questioning their femininity. And they didn't like the idea at all. They expressed a lot of disgust at the idea of men having sex with men and women. And it's interesting, some of these women, several of them actually, they say they have many gay men who are their friends. So they are friends with gay men. They have problem with people who are having sex with both sexes, and particularly doing it secretly. So they see it as deception. And then when I was doing literature for search before I started this research, I didn't find much literature, but when I looked at there are some of these websites which talk about MSMW, and they're mostly set up by or for, maybe not by, but for MSMW. And the only thing they have for women is ask your partner if he's having sex with other men too, and they say like ask nicely, that kind of language. So I did ask in the focus groups whether the women can ask. And as we already know from other studies which were done in the HIV epidemic or even during family planning research, we know that women are not in equal relationships. Their power dynamics were at work. In that kind of situation, women are actually afraid to ask. They are very hesitant, and they said, they also, some of them thought, if the men don't want to say, they react violently, maybe they should construe it as he is on the down low. And so there was some discussion about it. So is it just being conservative, or is it being on the down low? That kind of thing. But basically women were saying, no, it's not easy to ask. So this is what they said. We asked them whether they want the men to come out. Yes, they want them to come out, particularly because they feel blindsided and they want to make informed decisions. They want to know that they are entering into a relationship with a bisexual man, and it should be up to them to be in the relationship or not. And interestingly, of course, younger women were much more concerned because they are the people who are more sexually more active and having a possibility of a higher number of partners. And very interesting was they were angry with these men, they want them to come out, but at the same time they were also very, very concerned about the men. And they were very concerned about this one, and they said, we asked them why, in their opinion, why the men are not coming out, and they said, particularly for black men, they said the expectations in the larger society about black male sexuality. They're raised to be men, and the black community, black church, black families are not willing to accommodate all these reasons. In doing so, they also expressed a lot of concern for men who may want to come out. If they're facing this bind, they want the men to come out for their own safety, but they also know the men will be facing problems if they come out, so they are very sympathetic. And widespread incarceration among black men was also, mentioned as one of the reasons. Possibly some of them could be having sex with other men while in the prison, and we really don't know anything about those behaviors and what happens after they come out. We really don't know. But one of the women in the focus group said her husband was imprisoned and he had sex with other men. They contracted HIV. She got HIV, but he told her about that only on his deathbed. Until then, he kept saying, no, I never had sex with men. So they're so sympathetic about the men and all that, and so we said, so what about the women? And they said, there is much more at stake for women. It's not just sex. And marriage or relationships or social institutions where we share a lot of other things too, not just sex. So all those things are at stake when something like this comes, and when it's linked with their hurt feelings and shame and all that, then it becomes a big issue. We also talked about what they would do, and some of them said, most of them said they would not leave right away. It's not an easy thing to leave because there are so many other things invested in that. And we also know, as I already said, the power dynamics, how the power dynamics work in this. Okay, and to come my conclusions. At the end of the discussion, this is what it felt like. We had these discussions about heterosexual, quote unquote, heterosexual cheating and that kind of stuff. So it seems in the society there is an implicit expectation that heterosexually people can be cheated in this context to the men. And but we accept that, we acknowledge that that kind of thing can happen. Once we acknowledge it, we've developed socially and culturally accepted ways to deal with it. So the woman, for example, can complain, can cry, can complain to him, to his family or her family, her friends, her church. And at the end, maybe she can go and get a divorce or separation. So there are socially accepted ways to deal with it. But when it comes to the down low kind of thing, we don't even acknowledge the issue, first of all. And then, since there is no social expectation about it, there is also no socially accepted ways to deal with it. As we know in the HIV epidemic, we need to acknowledge the problem first, and that will take us towards there. And we also, in the group, when the discussions were happening, when the women expressed so much disgust about it, at times we wondered whether it's like rooted in homophobia in the society in general. But we couldn't get it from them because some of them said, no, we have gay friends and they're all comfortable with their gay friends. So probably it is more about the deception. So as what I presented now is coming, the data are coming from the focus group discussions, and now I'm planning the next phase. We're going to, one thing at the end of it, one thing I realized was, hey, at least we don't know about MSMW, but there is a way now we can quantify women's experiences with MSMW by doing surveys with women. We may not get 100%, but we do get some ballpark figure, because in some cases women may not know it themselves. So that's one thing we're planning to do within our study with our 300 women. And then I also wanted to do it with the women who live in the district but who are not enrolled in WISE. Because there is so much epidemic going on in the district, so we wanted to know if there is a factor at all in that epidemic. We're also planning to do some interviews. So this references for what I referred in the presentation. And thank you very much. And if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer. Thank you.